Well, I think we're so entrenched. I mean, our the Western tradition is so fundamentally Christian that we can hardly conceptualize something different. Although I do think we're kind of teetering on like neo-paganism. I mean, the funny thing is that, to the whole what?
We're there.
Oh, right. Right, teetering on
Yes,
slash
teetering.
swan diving
Yeah.
into. But, there's nothing new under the sun. And we're just sort of recycling through old heresies like, Gnosticism and, even the way I see my sort of millennial peers celebrating things like the equinox. And, it's like even these sort of very old traditions, or traditions is the wrong word, old customs that Christianity sort of Christianized. And I think it's sort of avant-garde and edgy to kind of be into these sort of neo-pagan things. But the reality is, do we really want to live in a pagan world? And frankly, I guess really we are, because we live in a world where child sacrifice is part of our moral and legal landscape. And where, as I argue in my book, increasingly it's like the Leviathan. It's like, every man and woman for themselves. In a world where we don't acknowledge that men and women are different, which is a very sort of Christian, I mean, it's a biological reality and it's the truth, but Christianity, I think, was essential in terms of elevating that understanding, giving it a certain dignity, that this isn't just biology. This is actually something that's infused with the divine, which is why Adam and Eve is our first story. It's sort of our first Bible story, is this idea that, man was incomplete as himself, and so God gave him woman, and then fast forward to Jesus, and he came into the world through a woman. It's like it had sort of a mysterious component to it that we're invited to contemplate. But we certainly don't want to live in a world that denies the difference between men and women, because that's a world where women get utterly trampled. And I do think we are basically there, because, since I wrote my book, they've basically, I've lost track of exactly where it stands, but they're going to require women to register for the draft. And as I was told when I testified before the, subcommittee that was debating this, don't tell me that we're not going to have another draft. That's everybody's excuse. Or they're like, oh, but we haven't had a draft since the Vietnam War. That's not a comfort. When you've got a 9-year-old daughter. And it's not so much that. It's what kind of world are we creating where we think it's acceptable to send young women, mothers, to war. And I'm not saying that women who serve in the military aren't extraordinarily heroic and capable, but, when we're sending them against their own will, or even talking about that, it's a scary world.